Good afternoon,
Good evening
wherever you are.
on this sexy planet of ours.
You sound sexy.
Well, I did it for you.
Oh, thank you. That's what he said. I'm a little tired today from all of the sexual exploits yesterday.
Well, we had to get ready for this show.
I know we were
didn't
practicing for the show.
So
it
we
was
practiced and
purely
practiced.
for work
Oh my
purposes.
God, yes.
I know it was so tough, but somebody had to do it.
Somebody had to do it, right?
Yes. So are you listening? Listening is key. It's actually key to great sexuality too.
Listening is key to everything, really. You start really listening rather than thinking about what's being said, and you fall into the current moment of your life. And 53 years ago, I believe it was, I did the S training, and I looked at that person up in front of the room, and I realized that person was really, really there. And I thought, now, if I could be that there in sex, it would be great. But I always got lost in my thoughts when I was having sex, trying to do it right, not come too soon or have her come before I did or whatever. It was always trying to get there rather than being there.
As we're talking today and you're listening to this podcast, we're talking about listening primarily using your ears. When you're having sex, there's not only listening with your ears, hearing for the sound of your partner, sounds that you might be making, or verbalizations or words or requests, but there's listening with your hands and your entire body. And it's interesting when you said you realized that if you could be there during sex, that it would be a very different experience.
It would be an experience rather than a thought about.
Because even yesterday,
you like that word, thought about?
Thought about. Yesterday, there were moments where I skipped off into my mind to thoughts that weren't anything about anything having to do with us being together. And I suspect people who are listening, that's true for them as well.
If they're being honest.
Most people, though, if they even notice that they've gone off to thinking about anything, whether it's what are we going to eat later or...
Oh, I had that.
Yeah. Well,
probably when you had that,
it was probably a simul thought.
Yeah.
We've noticed that before. But 3 principles. Anything you resist, persists, grows stronger, and dominates your experience of yourself. Second principle, life shows up exactly as it does, and no 2 things can occupy you at the same time. Although that's kind of funny in the sexual parameters, but I'm not touching that. Third principle, anything you see without judging.
You got me lost in that one.
No 2 things. Well, I was occupied with my thoughts, and then I wasn't actually experiencing you occupying me, so to speak.
I see. Okay.
But anything you see without judging completes itself.
Yes.
And I have a feeling that when people have those skip off moments, if they even notice it, they judge themselves for having left.
Yes.
I've gotten skilled at noticing it. And then sometimes for me, it means time to do something else.
Yes.
As in, now maybe it's my opportunity to be, I don't know how to verbalize it.
How about pleasure me?
Yeah, pleasure you. Yes, that's good.
Isn't that good?
Because in general, I'm not thinking when I'm actively doing something to pleasure you, but sometimes there comes to a point where I'm filled up and it's like I've had enough for some reason, and I either can surrender into that and see what's next, or I can shift. Yeah. It's all good.
Let's shift and take a caller.
Yes, two.
Or two.
In fact, we do. We have a couple, Susan and Michelle. Michelle and Susan, welcome to being here.
Hi,
are you ready to immerse yourself in your prudish nature?
Well, let's find out.
Where are you zooming in from?
We are calling from Manhattan, in New York.
Yes.
You've got our cat down there going, "Wah!" Yes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to what you just said about the thinking. I do think a lot. I have a goal. I want to pleasure Susan, and I think sometimes I get lost in that ambition or in that goal instead of just being with her. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. And
Well, part of that comes from underestimating yourself, Michelle. I know you both quite well, you're friends of ours, but even if I didn't, I think I could hazard this as a possibility. She's with you because she finds your presence pleasurable. So having to do it right, our cat's going crazy. She's rolling around on the floor. She knows what we're talking about here.
That's right.
Having to do it right and having to drive to some goal like orgasm is actually likely less pleasurable than you might know. Like you don't have to work so hard.
That's funny. This morning I said, I feel like I'm working too hard, that was me, but I was able to say it out loud, which I've
Are
never
you
done.
talking about? Did you?
Sex. Yeah, we had sex this
During sex.
morning.
Okay,
During
good.
sex,
Just
and
checking.
I'm sorry.
Just checking. I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that you had sex this morning.
You think about it. I lost it.
Well, you
It
may
came and
have
went.
had an outside pressure to have something to talk about today. Like you weren't just being with each other. You were like, oh, we're going to be on a podcast about sex.
We better have some.
Yes. And also, sometimes in the morning, Michelle has an early meeting, and so sometimes it's not optimal for us. Sometimes it is, but sometimes there's a pressure, like a time pressure in the morning. But
Well, we set aside a chunk of time to romance. It's not like it's got to be quick, and sometimes it is.
That being said, when you say there's a time pressure, the time pressure is only because you haven't told yourself the truth. I have 20 minutes, I have 10 minutes, I have 15 minutes, but I want this. So then there's no pressure. It's just this fast self-expression because you want it. And as long as it's not in avoidance of a longer, more luxurious being together. I was telling Shai this morning, we had a quickie. I call them quickies. We had a quickie the other day. It was actually only 10 minutes. It was like, wow, we did all that in 10 minutes. And then we drove out to a local restaurant and my body felt so good. And yesterday we had this long, luxurious afternoon of being together and my body felt so good. It's not that one is better than the other. It's about how our life is showing up and whether or not we want to be together that way.
I love that.
Judge it, Susan, as pressure filled, then you guys aren't going to have as much fun.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to produce something, you won't have as much fun.
Yeah.
Be in the changed reality of getting somewhere rather than actually being where you are.
Yes. Cool.
That's nice. There's something else I wanted to bring up because I think men in general can relate to this, or at least some. I've started taking medication for my prostate, and well, I don't have any condition and my libido is fine. But what I've noticed is that my orgasm is stunted. I
Diminished, yes.
a noticeable difference in quality of my orgasm. And
Yes, I remember that I had something similar to that. My urologist put me on some drug that stole my orgasm.
Well,
You know, it was supposed to be an orgasm there, and then there was a vacuum. So I stopped taking that drug.
and we did a different direction. However, if you're needing to be on that now and you're seeing if this is the direction you want to go, here's one of the things that happened with us whilst Shia was experiencing that condition of would have sexual pleasure, and then the orgasm would be kind of like a fizz out. There wasn't the big experience of sensation. He came to expect that. So rather than looking for that big burst, it was about the pleasure of being together rather than some payoff at the end, which was really helpful. The other thing too is that the more we stimulated him and had a longer pleasure building of him, the less truncated it was at the end, the less it was still didn't have that kind of full sensation that happened without the drugs, but it was different.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, you may have to experiment, you guys.
Well, I'm down for that. What were you going to say, Shia?
Nah, it's not. So you might just have to be there with what's going on rather than get somewhere that's going to be better than where you are. You know?
And it's
that's
tough,
really tough.
because most people have been trained to compare this to that. So you're now having physical intimacy, sex with Susan, and you're comparing it to pre-medicine or yesterday's orgasm. Most people do that, but if you can keep bringing yourself back to here, what's here today, it's a whole different thing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I like that.
Now I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Because I know there are people listening who either have long distance relationships or one of their partners may travel for work and they're apart for longer than their libido might appreciate. When you guys got together, I know you were still living in Switzerland and you lived in New York, Susan. What did you do to maintain intimacy and sexual health? What can you tell people that was a good tip for them, if you'd be so kind?
Of course. Well, we use today's technologies and possibilities that you have, and I mean specifically the phone. We had a lot of phone sex. I think we talked almost every day when we were not together, and then it just, I don't know how it started, but somehow our talking to each other, it got romantic, and then one thing led to the next, and then we had, you could say we had phone sex, which
And
was
video sex sometimes too.
yeah. Which was very intimate. It's if I think we both were fully there with each other, and then just hearing the voice was almost as if the person was, at least that was my experience, it was almost as you, Susan, were next to me. And I mean, you can close your eyes and then have fantasies, it's almost like being with the person. So that was my experience.
Well, people who are listening to this who are together, they could go in separate rooms and try it.
I remember I'd be all ready. We had a date, and I'd call him and he'd say, well, listen, I'm on the tram. I'll be home in 5 minutes. Just hold on.
And it was really fun. It was never the same. It was, we talked about what we would do to each other and how we feel. And you can, I mean, if you as a listener want to try it, I mean, you can let your fantasy run wild, and everything is possible. So you can pretend to be anyone you want to be, and it's actually, yeah, it's fun. It was a lot of fun.
I was so turned on just by your voice and your breath over the phone. And I never thought I could, well, it was the first time I ever had phone sex. I couldn't imagine it, but you made it very, you made it easy. It's a great invitation.
Well, yeah, I think we both did it. And that being said, you can also do it in emails. If if you have, I don't know, a talent at writing, you can write down stories, and which I did.
You did.
Mostly in the beginning, but that's a lot of fun too. That can be almost like foreplay.
Well, see, we learned a lot of things.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you guys being so forthcoming. I can see you get a little embarrassed about what worked and was so sweet for the two of you. And I appreciate your being willing to be that vulnerable so that other people might have that opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's our pleasure to be here on the call, and it's such a great topic. I mean, the culture. I'm from Switzerland, and I think the US culture is similar in this respect. It's not really something you talk about at the dinner table. So that you offer this format, I think is fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It's time for our listener feedback spotlight, where we hear from one of our listeners about how transformation has impacted her life or his life.
If you want to learn more about our seminars, any of the upcoming virtual courses, visit transformationmadeeasy.com.
That is transformation made easy, easy.com.
I love it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ulf from Hamburg in Germany, and I like visiting the seminars of Ariel and Shayakin because it helps me lighten my life, be more centered in myself, don't have to worry so much. So that's one of the reasons of many why I go to the seminars.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
For those of you coming with us to Costa Rica in January of next year, the early registration deadline is coming up May 1st. If you're coming, you may as well put in your deposit so that you can get a discount. Our next Living Made Easy 2-hour seminars this Saturday, and then the following Monday, May 5th. That's our next Living Made Easy. And then our weekends coming up, we get to go to Hamburg, Germany soon.
Oh, that's so cool.
I'm so excited. The Freedom to Breathe is Thursday, May 22nd.
And the superpower of being you is May 23rd, 24th, and 25th.
It's a Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can really see it in listening to Susan and Michelle. Like there's a superpower in being willing to be fully themselves. I just love that. Also, we're doing another in-person seminar coming up this year, Creativity and Intuition in New York City, the first New York City course we've done since
Before COVID.
Before the
When
pandemic,
COVID hit.
2020. So
Wow.
it's July 25th, 26th, and 27th. So If you want to come to any and all,
And that's
you are invited.
creativity and intuition.
Yeah, it is. All right. Let's take our next guest.
And you know, you can use your creativity and intuition
for
with
sex.
sexuality.
Yes, you can. All right, Christian, welcome to being here. Tell people where you're zooming in from.
I'm zooming in from Basel, Switzerland.
So nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. I am very honored to be here and talking with you guys about sex. First, I was embarrassed and I could see my prudish nature. Like, as Michelle was saying before, I'm also from Switzerland, and talking about sex is not something would say, very used to. And what came to my mind talking about sex is I can see when I pleasure myself that there is like sometimes, mostly I can remember when I took or after a seminar with you guys, I have more a connection to myself and sex is different. But it gets like downgrade. It becomes like a program, or I'm not really there with me. I think you were talking today with that. So it's like, what?
Well, there's a few things. When you do a weekend with us, you are there for, if it's for instance, a Zoom weekend, or even the 2-hour seminars, you're training yourself to really engage
in what's happening in that moment.
So whether it's a 2-hour or a weekend, you're engaged and you're listening to people rather than listening to your thoughts. So that level of engagement brings you, Christian, forward rather than that thought veil that gets between us
and our experience of
feeling things and experience.
You know, like you think about is very different than feeling what you're feeling, smelling, tasting, hearing. You know, the senses are where your experience takes place. Your thoughts about it are taking you out of your experience of the moment.
I also wouldn't be surprised if you rarely set up a date with yourself.
Yeah, that's very, yes. Yes. Yeah.
You know, so it's like you're talking about pleasuring yourself, but it's like, okay, it's 10:15, let's go. I could use a release.
Yes.
Rather than a candle that smells well, or ambiance in your room, or you know, yesterday when music, or when Shai and I got together yesterday, part of it was I put out a couple of mandarins, not mandarins, little mandarin oranges, and I peeled them, and the smell of it was so, and then sensuous. I liked that smell, and then the feel of it, and then we shared each of them, because one mandarin and another mandarin, they never taste the same. They always have a slight difference. So we split them, and the feel on the tongue, and then the burst of a little bit of sugar gave us energy. And so somehow I don't think you treat yourself with honor, love, respect, like
as if
you matter.
You're royalty.
This is very true, and it hasn't occurred to me that this is a possibility till you just were saying it. It's like, for me, I think like you do in a relationship, you know, when you're dating someone, but it didn't occur to me.
Yeah, but what about your relationship with you?
You know, and really, whether we're talking about pleasuring ourselves or pleasuring a partner, you know, that starting place is the same. Where you're taking care of yourself, you take care of them. Now, I don't want to give you a new rule, because just like I was saying yesterday or a couple of days ago, when I just wanted to be with Shai, it had been too long. I wanted to have sex. We were looking at doing it after dinner. And we're kind of like, "Ah, if we do that, we just won't have it tonight. Let's have sex now. And I'm hungry." So we had it very fast and then went to dinner, and it was so much fun. So it's not like setting the stage is better.
Well, when you say that, it was so much fun. See, we've all been trained by religion mostly that procreation is the purpose of sex, and sex for pleasure is sinful. Is that true for you?
That's very true. I just wanted to talk about that. You like hoovered my brain. I was like, I could see a component of religion, like
Yes.
Yes.
how you say distance and clean self, and yeah, yes.
And so the idea of being, that we exist is an amazing thing. That this planet is about sex. I mean, it really is. The flowers, every one of those flowers.
We're
is a
now
sex
in
organ.
the time frame where I have to put an extra pillow over my head because the frogs at night are so loud in our pond, and they not only are croaking, they like run into each other, like they want to dislodge one so the other one, so that they can have access. And so they're all going blah, 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 all night. It's very, very loud.
Yes.
This world is
Is it
about
sex.
sex.
That's what it's really about. And I always find it interesting how people have occupations, jobs, work, and they pretend that their sexuality does not exist. But really, we are sexual beings. And you got to figure humanity has a lot of sex because there's 8 billion of us now. That's a lot of screwing around.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, cool.
But we've also been told that it's bad and it's wrong, and you have to wait to marriage, and it's to have children, because good people that are that way.
And it's all very private.
Yes.
Very, very.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like when we sat down here today and we met with you and Susan and Michelle and Stephanie, who's on here also, is our guest after you, we brought our espresso and we had a piece of ladder chocolate. And you guys are like, what kind is that? We're like, it's caramelized hazelnut with dark chocolate. We ate a bite. It was all very yummy. We can talk about that, but none of us goes, so how was sex last night? We don't talk about the details of that. We've been trained. That is so verboten.
Yes, I can see. Yes, very verboten.
There's one other thing that I think, aside from connecting in so that you are more engaged and less thoughtful, full of thoughts, that makes you more prone to being able to feel things. I find that in our courses and even here, and I'll bet you that there are people who are listening to this podcast who may go away from here and have more sensation. There's a climate of honesty where when you keep telling yourself the truth or listening to the truth or being willing to receive the truth as people know it or see it, then you don't have these secrets between you and yourself, which makes your body go dead, or you and your partner, which makes your body go dead. So from time to time over the years, and Shai and I've had sex for more than 42 years, one of us won't be feeling very much. And we both will stop and go, what are you thinking about? Or what's happening? And we realize that there's something not being said. It could be something silly. It could be, I was worried about, I don't know.
Feeding the cat.
It could be something so irrelevant, but it's about being willing to be honest.
Yeah, and that's so cool with the honesty. I also can see that I have the idea honesty is like in a relationship, but it's also the relationship I have with myself.
Yes.
Well,
No.
if you're honest with yourself, Christian, you'll probably become much more capable of having a relationship.
Should you
Mhm.
want,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
Because honesty is a very interesting way of going about life. It's not an idea, it's a reality of being willing to say your truth moment to moment, not to hurt somebody. Because you can say your truth to hurt somebody, or you can say your truth because it's what's true for you.
Yes.
And the problem is with most relationships, they have secrets from each other, and those secrets include what I call perpetrations, where they do something that is either is or they consider damaging to the aliveness of their partner or themselves. And if they have such perpetrations, they withhold their energy in intimate situations. So there's a lack of feeling, sensation, and satisfaction as a result of being together.
Because if you really let go, those things may surface. We
But
were on a recent fishing trip, and one of the guys was talking about having gone to a lodge in Alaska. And all the other people who came on that trip got there, put on their fishing outfits, took pictures in Alaska, got out of their fishing outfits, and went
to Las Vegas.
to Las Vegas. That they wanted to prove through metadata that they were in Alaska, but they were actually pulling it all over on their wives, and they were going to Vegas to do.
So if you do something like that, you're going to, when you're with your wife
or husband
or
or
whatever,
partner,
you're going to withhold. You got to be careful. You see, you can't be full out there in your experience, because you might let it slip that you were screwing around with somebody else when you told your partner that this was it and you were with them forever, alone, nobody else but you, baby.
Yes. Oh, that's so fantastic. Really. Thank you
Really?
so
I mean, honesty allows for the experience of passion. Honesty allows for the experience of love. But if you're being dishonest with yourself or others, then you don't allow yourself to experience your life. Everything is to protect your lies. And that's not a very satisfying lifestyle.
One other thing I wanted to address before we
And by the way, I'm not saying that people should do their life the way I'm saying it.
no, you got to do it
You
your
do
way.
what's right for you. But after 84 years, I've discovered how to have an amazing life by not doing those things that undermine an amazing life.
You said something about you'll come to our seminar, and then being with yourself and pleasuring yourself has a
And more sensation.
more sensation and quality, and that it degrades.
Yeah.
Don't make yourself wrong for it degrading. That's why people come to Living Made Easies with regularity. It's a little bit like walking around the streets of Basel for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks without ever taking a shower.
You're going to be pretty dirty eventually.
So in a way,
even though Basel's a rather clean city.
Yes. Yes. And looking and seeing what your appetite is for attending seminars with us. And yeah.
Look, the truth is, when you get upset, that's when you disappear.
From yourself, from your friends, from the seminars, from your clients, you're just gone.
Yeah. Yes.
Your body can be around, but
you contract. That's into a protective mode of relating to life rather than being available and open and allowing yourself to experience and feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the reason we tell people they should attend with consistency if they're going to attend at all, because the consistency allows you to maintain your well-being rather than get lost in upsets. And this is a very upsetting world. And if you watch the news or listen to the news, you'll upset yourself over and over again because things are never going the way you would prefer.
I have a question for you. First of all, I really admire that you talk about pleasuring yourself, like that you were that vulnerable and open with people today. I think that was an incredible gift. I'm wondering if you have given up on having a partner, if it's something you don't want, or if you got disappointed and said, screw this.
I'm never going to do
I'll
that
screw
again.
me instead. I'm just wondering what's happening with that.
Your intuition is so good.
Well, we are doing creativity and intuition,
So I remember we had a chat in the beginning of the year, and there it became so clear to me that at the moment I love to be alone. And then after a while, I was like, why I'm running around on the dating apps without really want to date someone? So I deleted them. And at the moment, it's very nice to that when I meet people, I have a different not approach, but I can see people different. I have a different connection to people instead of just looking to my phone and see if someone is available. Yeah.
I first of all, I like what you're saying. In our dating time, there were no dating apps.
That's right.
There was no such thing. And I think people, I know a lot of people, and some of your friends, some of our friends met on dating apps and have gotten married and have lovely relationships. But there are other ways as well. I'm not sure that you're just loving being alone and don't like the dating apps. I'm assuming that maybe you haven't seen that connecting with a person in person could be a possibility for you. I would start dating not only yourself, but the barista who's serving you coffee, the
clerk who's checking you out at the grocery store.
And I'm not talking about flirting with
but if
an end result.
But if they're in your experience in the moment, then it's okay to interact with them like they're supposed to be there. Rather than you've got something else to do when you get out of here.
Yeah, that opens a wide possibility.
Yes, and you'll probably be more sensuous on the days that you go home and feel like pleasuring yourself because you'll have been pleasant and pleasurable to everybody you meet.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
You. Thanks for being with us.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
Well, Stephanie, you got to listen to everybody so far. Welcome to being here. Tell people where you're calling in from.
Hi, this is Stephanie, and I'm calling in from Hamburg, Germany.
Can I just say how excited we are that we're coming to Hamburg soon and we get to spend time with you and your husband, Thomas, and the whole community there?
Oh, and we are all so excited that you're coming. It's such an honor, and yeah. But I'm happy to be here today, and it was awesome to listen to the other people. And yeah, what I want to talk about sex.
Good.
My husband and I, Thomas, and I love him, and he loves me, and it feels like right now or these days our relationship is better than ever. But it turns out that we only have sex when we are on holidays. And as soon as we are back home, I cannot keep the momentum. I don't know what's happening. Suddenly a month is over and we touch each other and we like our bodies, but it's just not happening.
Well, it's clear you need to go on vacation more.
Yes, I was thinking of that, but yeah, I know that
Well,
it's kind of
Stephanie, you could take a vacation whilst being at home. They call them staycations, where you take time to be together. See, I think you're both very busy in your lives. And so you occupy yourself with whatever there is that requires doing, and you don't cut out a piece of time for you.
Well, I know you own your own business. You're a really talented accountant, money manager. You handle things for us in Germany, and I know your husband has started a second career. I'm not sure that on the days you're not, quote, working, you don't have a whole list of household things, yard things, grocery shopping, all of those kind of things that you don't impose upon yourself when you are on vacation. Plus, there's then incompletions in your home and things like that, which pull your eye and I got to do that. I'll get to that. One of the things that Shai and I have started to do is we look and tell the truth about time. And sometimes we're like, Saturday after the Living Made Easy, we are scheduling nothing. It's just time for us. And then, you have the idea, I could do the laundry. I could write that email. And it's just no.
See, you will fill in the time with things to do. Work expands to fill the time available for it. So you have to just stop working.
Well, it's so right, because I cannot see myself that I ever sit around and think, oh, now I have free time. It's always filled with something.
But it's if you treat yourselves like you are a client and you're going to the client today and everything the client needs, you're going to do. And the only thing you need to do is be with each other, nothing else. Then if it's go out for a walk, hold hands, have a meal together. But I have a feeling that your libidos are what I might consider softer or less like driven by hormones.
Well, that's a question I have. Whether or not you guys have had your hormones checked. Because if your hormones are down, if your testosterone is low, if your estrogen is low, then you won't have the desire. You won't have the fire to have sex. It'll be a non-existent. It's like not having the hunger for food.
And once a month may be a rhythm that is acceptable for you. For me, I would find myself getting closed down. It's not something that feels healthy for me and my libido. But if we go back to setting aside time, you may need a little warm-up time to be with each other in order to have those feelings come to the surface, those sensations come to the surface, and you filled things.
You need to schedule some time for each other and time that doesn't have something filling it.
I really like that. And I remember when you said before, I should treat myself like I'm a client. It suddenly was so easy in my mind. Of course, I will have time for that, and whatever is needed will be provided. And it's so funny if I see it like that. It's just relaxing. And
like for instance, you make time during your day to record this podcast. I doubt that you've gone, you know what, Thomas is going to be home at this time. I'm stopping an hour early. I'm setting up the bed. I'm making sexy food. I'm going to put on lingerie. I'm like, you don't give yourself the license to create an experience for you both because you don't have the time.
I like that. It did not occur to me to do it like that. Really. It was easy because my time was scheduled differently for today, but then
Thing, Stephanie, when you were young, you had hormones that were pushing you to have sex. Now you're of an age where the hormones aren't pushing as much anymore. So you have to do it yourself.
yeah.
You have to engage yourself. And I also say you should have your hormones checked, because if your hormone levels are too low, you're just not going to have a desire.
Yeah. I already got a new doctor's appointment, and it will get checked very soon.
Also, I know we've spoken about this somewhat in previous podcasts a long time ago. So perhaps if somebody's searching on our podcast for the subject of sex, I know that postmenopausal women or women who are close to menopause, the vaginal area gets thinner and it's more delicate. So you can get micro tears, not anything that shows, but just it's like chafing. And so then sex, something going in the vagina, whether it's fingers or penis or a tongue even, it gets less comfortable. And then you think, oh, I don't want sex anymore. As opposed to part of that is something that you can address with hormones. But certainly, I thank God for Veleda, the one that's the pomegranate. It's got a great consistency. When Shai and I have sex, either I'm using saliva additionally, mine, his, ours, or I use that and I often rub it inside my vagina before we start so that I don't have any discomfort. And it's cool because it's also, Stephanie, you're not going to do that if you don't admit to yourself that you want it.
Yes, you know.
And Stephanie, darling, I was going to say this earlier, but it wasn't as appropriate. Women really do run sex. See, I respond to signals that Ariel makes, whether she realizes she's making them or not. So men are responders and women initiate sex.
You are totally capable of doing a Godfather moment.
What's a Godfather moment?
Baby just brought her little stuffy toy up. Making him an offer he can't refuse.
Ah, I love that. I love that term. I had never heard that before. How cool. Okay.
You an offer you can't refuse. Yes.
I will tell Thomas about having a Godfather.
Don't tell him about it.
Tell him. I would try it and see how it works out.
Make him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah.
Cool.
But one other thing too. Shai and I are sensuous with each other, not only or even primarily for the purpose of having sex. We are sensuous with each other. Shai made me this beautiful breakfast this morning. The plate was sensuous, but that's not unusual. He doesn't just throw together something. It's like there's a courting, so whether it's Christian courting himself or you courting yourself and Thomas, it doesn't, and of course, Susan and Michelle, you could say.
I once did a course. It was called All About Men, and it was about 50 years ago or 45 years ago. No, And
We
we
were
had just-
together, so it's probably
42 years ago, something like that. And they asked us to prepare a meal for like 6 people, enough food for 6 people, fit for royalty. And
bring it to the group.
and bring it to the group for people to eat. And what I brought was a winning meal. I mean, it was, they graded them
Like,
because
it
how
was-
you
I remember
prepare
it.
a meal would be the same way you prepare to take care of another or even yourself. And so if you take care of those details, sensuality follows, you see.
This sounds awesome. And it sounds like that can be real. This is not a
And
fantasy.
this is the things your parents didn't tell you, you see.
No. But you tell me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being with us today
Mhm.
and, for sharing. I love it. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you can share it with your friends. I know that you'll have to be admitting that you listened to something about sex and that you have it or that you're interested in it, but hey, what can you say? Also, if you haven't already subscribed to our newsletter, I really recommend it. The blogs that we do, our talented German friends now translate them. So you can also be getting our blogs in German if you like to read it in German. You can find all our courses and the newsletter sign up link at transformationmadeeasy.com. And I'm personally inviting you to come to our seminars. It really is a place where your senses can come alive.
And you can discover well-being.
Yeah.
As a lifestyle, not as a occasional happenstance.
We'll be back next week. So come on back, no pun intended.
And don't miss
being here. Ooh, did we say next week's podcast?
No.
Sorry, superpower of being you.